How are you?
I'm well. I'm very well. I'm interested to talk about your new album, Troika, which came
Yeah,
out about 3 days ago, I think it was.
Friday. Yeah, last Friday. Yeah.
Okay. Well, as soon as I started playing it, I was there was a track, "Everything I Am." It has these beautiful vocal harmonies. I just wonder if it reminded me of Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I was wondering if that was the kind of vibe you were going for with that track or this album.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, actually, I've always been a big fan
Uh,
of theirs. I listen to, like, if I'm traveling, I'll just put on, like, on Pandora, I'll put on the Crosby, Stills and Nash station. It's, you know, I'm just into that stuff. I like the I like the simpler approach to the instrumentals as well.
yeah,
And yeah, we were looking for a great vocal blend, and of course, I think we really got a beautiful one.
you certainly
But we
did.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, the funny thing was we didn't really know. I think it says that in the press release, because that was the thing that really struck me about it, was that we didn't really know uh, for sure that the vocal blend was going to be great until after, wow, 3 or 4 months after we had made the deal and we were working on the record.
Yeah.
Nick didn't send his vocals into the very end, so
Okay.
I knew as soon as I put all the vocals up, and it was just, when you don't have to touch the faders, you know what I mean? You just
Yeah.
put it up, and then it's like, oh wow, and you feel the magic, and
Sure.
you got a good thing going.
Yeah, I mean that's what struck me when I first listened to it. It's just how beautiful it was. Really, it was. I just think of all those early Beach Boys records and things like that I used to enjoy. It's just wonderful. Is there an overarching concept theme, or were you just about evoking a specific atmosphere for this album?
I don't remember how I pitched it to the guys originally. I think it was like, hey, do you want to make a, more acoustics, 3-part harmony singer songwriter kind of album, I think.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and the interesting thing was that, of course, I thought of Nick right away. Nick was like, oh yeah, I love that kind of stuff. I've been writing some stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, Ross was a later thought. It was like, that was the big question for me, who could be the other guy, and really wanted it to be like another artist.
Uh-huh.
Because one thing that's really great about a lot of those kinds of albums is you're dealing with a lot of different artists. Like the same things like with the Beatles albums, you
Yeah.
got
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the different angles of the artistry, and that makes for a very interesting listen, I think.
It does. It certainly does.
Yeah.
Um,
And
Go on.
anyway,
Sorry.
yeah, go. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Yeah, you did perfectly. Perfectly. There's this whole new subgenre that's emerging now called the lockdown album. Would you describe this as a lockdown album?
It is. Yeah, it is.
I mean,
Um,
I wonder if that in any way has informed the writing at all on this one,
I don't think so. You
or
know,
being in isolation.
well, Ross, that was kind of the miracle. One of the miracles was when I talked to Ross. I only knew Ross as the singer of Haken, which is
Okay.
which is some very heavy stuff,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I didn't know if he'd be interested at all. If he was into this kind of thing. And he was like, "Dude, that's amazing. I've been writing a bunch of stuff like that." He just came out with this solo album that is, singer-songwriter oriented. So, I mean, it was already in his mind. I didn't really know that. But yeah, the way it came together with the lockdown thing was just really very easy. That's how I would describe this album, was like a, peaceful, easy, very
Peaceful, easy
nice.
feeling.
Yeah, it was. Not only does it, kind of hopefully give off that feeling from the music, but it was like that to make the record as well.
Sure. Sure. It is a very mellow listen. It just it's one of those records that kind of transports you somewhere nice whenever you hear it.
Yeah, good.
I mean, one of my questions is John Lennon wrote his Julia for his mother. I'm just wondering, who is the Julia in your song?
Oh, that would be a Ross question. Ross written that song.
Yeah.
And then I came in as a co-writer because I felt like he had a couple different original versions, and I really love them, but I felt like for this record particularly, it needed a chorus.
Yeah.
It needed a little more of a standard song structure.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I was really grateful. He very kindly let me chop up his song. And yeah, I mean, I added that chorus, and then, I was cutting up the verses, and so there was two verses, a B section, and then a chorus, and then
Yeah.
the piano solo was from the original, but I was just like moving things all around, but as far as the lyrical content, I only added a few lines just to realize my vision of the choruses, but all the lines like, please forgive me, my sweet Julia, that's all from Ross.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting. It did. Some of the lyrics remind me slightly of the John Lennon number. Actually, it was quite an interesting comparison I made in my head. But it's a lovely
Oh,
number.
really?
It's a lovely number. Change is going to come. I'm interested in that one. Was that in any way inspired by kind of the dreadful events of the last, couple of years with the lockdown and things like that, or are you speaking generally of hope and renewal with that song?
Oh, yeah, it was certainly born out. I mean, I wrote that. I think I started writing it on a camping trip in California. I was in the redwoods.
Okay.
And sitting by a fire. And this was August of 2020. So the whole
Lockdown was kind of there, was it? Or
oh yeah, lockdown was in full swing, and then the George Floyd,
oh,
the whole
absolutely, yeah.
the riots in the streets in America was all happening too.
Sure, because we got
And
that over
so
here as well.
yeah, and so and the Trump White House and all of that stuff. So yeah, I'm talking about that. But I don't like to be too specific, because you
Right.
want it to be able to apply to people wherever they are and however they're feeling.
Sure.
So yeah, it was definitely inspired by the times.
So, it's speaking generally, I think, of hope and renewal. It's not necessarily being that specific.
Yeah, I was inspired by one of the main driving forces of the song was the quote from Martin Luther King about that history is always moving toward. And the funny thing is, I can never remember the exact quote, but the
Yeah.
idea is that the arc of history is always moving toward a better condition of morality for humanity.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Not at the moment, it doesn't feel like that. I think with the whole Ukraine situation at the moment,
Sure.
it's
Yeah. Yeah. That's the idea that I think the way I think of it is kind of like the American stock market. Like it's like, if you look at the arc of it from 1930 to now, it's always going up.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of down spots, so that's what I was trying to say in that song a bit. Hang on, keep doing the right thing, things are going to get better.
Absolutely. Let's see. Things get very amped up on. There's a rockier number on this album, Secondhand Suns. I just wonder what's the message behind that one, really, or what inspired you to with that one?
Well, actually, that was inspired from a friend of mine. I was sharing the demos with him.
Okay.
And the demos of this album sounded much more mellow and sedate than the final versions wound up sounding.
Yeah.
And my friend said, you need a rocker. You need your Ohio.
Yeah. Going back to the Crosby, Nash and
Yeah,
Stills.
the CSNY thing.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh, all right, and yeah, so that's why I wrote that one, to kind of thinking, oh, we need a rocker, and it came out. I wrote that in about a half an hour. It's just like boom, and I went and demoed the whole thing. I mean, I wrote it and did the demo, played real drums on it, and the whole thing in one afternoon, I think.
Well, it's
And
interesting because it adds some really nice sonic contrast, I think, to the album. It kind of stands out as a, just when you're kind of mellowing out, you're kind of shaken with that one. It's a great number.
oh, thanks, thank you. Yeah, oh, yeah. And I was thinking of I don't know where it all comes from, but in that chorus, I don't know. I was thinking I always like those kind of choruses where like the soulful guy sings a line and the background guys sing it. I mean,
Yeah.
guess I was a little bit inspired by like Chicago's "Make Me Smile." It's like
Okay.
I'm so happy, yeah, yeah. And the guy kind of riffs out between,
Yeah.
And anyway, glad you like it.
I love those. I mentioned Chicago. I love those early Chicago albums, especially that first one, Chicago Transit Authority. It's
Yeah.
fantastic, I think. I read somewhere that the album Snow was inspired by the events of 9/11. I'm just wondering what was in your head before 9/11 regarding that album. Did you have a concept you were rolling towards that's fundamentally changed by those events?
Well, wow. I think the way in which 9/11 played a role in Snow was it stopped the recording sessions in LA.
Yeah.
Well, actually the recording sessions were stopping anyway because Nick was so sick
Yeah.
that he couldn't come be a part, which has never happened before or since.
Yeah. It
And
felt
so
like
I
the
was
whole
going to,
world ground to a halt in that moment, if I remember.
yeah,
It was a seismic moment.
but I was going to fly home on the morning of 9/11
Yeah.
because I changed my flight because Nick was sick. I thought, and also it just felt like the album wasn't there yet.
Okay.
Like I flew out there to like thinking, well, if we get together, maybe we can sort this out. And then 9/11 happened and I wound up driving all the way home by myself. And that it was on that drive from LA to Nashville, which is really long, 3 days. That was when kind of the story started to take shape in my mind. Before that, it wasn't a concept album. We were trying to figure out how to make all these songs fit together in some kind of idea. So that was the way in which it was shaped.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. Snow, this character has these healing powers. I'm just wondering whether or not Snow is a kind of a savior type figure, a metaphor perhaps for the country's need to heal at that moment.
Well, I wasn't really thinking that, but I think that's certainly a beautiful possibility. Sometimes you find out even for yourself later, 10, 20 years down the line, lyrics will have different meanings for you than they did when you wrote them. So,
yeah. I mean, there was I remember at the time there was this, it was like this gaping wound, wasn't it? It was just a horrible time, I think.
Yes, it was.
I'm interested in your conversion and to what extent your faith still informs your music, even now.
Well, let's see. Yeah. Well, I mean that can be I can give you a short answer or a long answer. How much time do you have?
Give me the long answer.
Okay, I'll give you the long answer. Well, I would say one of the important pieces of my story, my salvation story, I guess I would say, is that I was somebody that grew up in Los Angeles trying to make it in the music business. And then in my early 30s, I started to think, wow, maybe this is never going to happen. Like, in fact, as I got older, I was 32, 33 years old, and wow, I became very depressed.
Sure.
And started to drink a lot and basically really wished that I could just die. I don't know if I was suicidal because I wasn't hostile towards anybody. I knew that would be something that would really break my parents' hearts, and I had no desire to do that. But
Sure.
I just kind of wished, like, every time I would get on an airplane, I would kind of wish it would just crash,
Hmm.
so it wouldn't be my fault. Then I moved to Nashville. So anyway, during that time, I began to pray
Sure.
because I was so just desperate. I would pray just to get through the day and not be mean to someone.
Okay.
There's a song on the Testimony album called "It's All I Can Do," and it's like, it's all I can do to get up in the morning and get through another day. Um, Describes that the Testimony album describes a lot of these things.
Sure. Sure.
So then I felt in my prayers like I was invited to move to Nashville. Like, hey, why don't you try Nashville? You're so miserable here.
Yeah.
I was losing every gig that I had, and life was really just going right down the drain. And so I remember praying and feeling a yes inside about going to Nashville. Anyway, so I moved to Nashville, and I start going to this church that my wife was not really even going to. It was like she was raised in this church. So we would just go to, like, at Christmas and New Year. And anyway, when they started singing about Jesus and getting excited about it, I began to feel something.
Sure.
And that was the big change for me. Because I'd been to, like, rockin' churches. I'd been to, like, a lot of modern churches during that time. Sometimes I would go just for some kind of a relief, some kind of a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I began to experience what I came to know as the Holy Spirit,
Sure.
like I began to experience something that I'd never experienced before. That was really the key for me.
Yeah.
I didn't tell anybody about it for a long time because it was so scary,
Sure.
because something in my identity knew that if this was real and if this was true, everything was going to change. And so I really resisted it for a while, but I still wanted it. I wanted more. I began to want to know God if I could.
Yeah.
And one night I was going to stay in and watch the X-Files. It's like 97 or so.
Okay.
And I felt like the Lord spoke to my heart and said, hey, if you want to get to know me, go down there. They had a Wednesday night service. But see, I was only just still going just as the nice husband.
Okay.
I never went by myself, but that night I went by myself.
Right.
Because as much as I wanted to just stay in and relax, I wanted to know God more. And
Okay.
so I went, and man, I got really, really blessed. But I wish I could say that I just jumped in full with both legs right
Sure.
then, but I still didn't.
It was more of a gradual thing.
It was very gradual, yeah. And then in '98, my daughter was healed of a heart condition when she was born.
Right.
After the people prayed for her, they couldn't find the hole. Then after that, I was praying, hey, I began to accept God, but now it was like the leap of Jesus. It's like, but yeah, the whole Jesus thing was so foreign to me. I
Sure.
wasn't raised with any of this kind of
No,
stuff.
no, me neither.
And I remember I was in the Eric Burden band at this time. Now it's like '98. And I was beginning to feel the weight of being away from my children.
Yeah.
And so I got on my knees at the Days Inn in Boston, and I prayed, Jesus, if you're real and you can really do the impossible,
Mhm.
like, test your faith, right?
Yeah.
If you're real, there's no way, it's not even possible for us to survive if I quit this job. But if I quit this job and get off the road, will you give us a sign? Will you help me to do that? And 2 weeks later, we got a fax from Metal Blade Records saying, it wasn't for a ton of money, but it was enough of a sign for me. Metal Blade wanted to license the Spock's Beard records, the early ones.
Okay.
And that was the beginning of our relationship with them.
Sure.
But yeah, to me, that was a sign. So then I have to say, I didn't really jump in with both feet and give my entire life over and become a disciple of Christ really till 2001. I mean,
Okay.
it was a long, God did a lot of stuff for me when I still wasn't.
It wasn't a road to Damascus like experience, and it was this gradual coming round to the idea.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I had a lot of those experiences along the way, but I just
Yeah.
wasn't willing to completely give over. I
Mm.
still wanted to live my life. And it's amazing to me how kind he would be to have that kind of patience. But I did come to the point, and I'm writing about it on the Snow album, on the Open Wide the Floodgates song.
Yeah.
It's about like feeling like uh, it was time to jump in. Like as you stand at the waterfall, I kind of felt like there I was. And this is at church. Like I'm
Okay.
at the altar, and all these Pentecostal people are praying around me.
Right.
And what I'm seeing is like I'm standing at like a chasm, and there's like this waterfall, but it's all mist and I can't see the bottom. And I
Sure.
feel like the Lord's like, it's time to jump off
Okay.
into the unknown with me. And I couldn't see the bottom, and I was scared. I was scared. But by that time, I didn't want to go back. And I felt like the Lord was saying, like, it's time for you to either jump in and go all the way,
Hmm.
or you're going to have to go back the way you came.
Right.
And I didn't want to go back the way I came, and I didn't want to jump in either. But of course, finally I did. And, everything, including just, you know, last week on the Neal Morse Band tour. I mean, God has been so wonderful and has blessed our family. I didn't know how we were going to make a living. How are we going to survive? I had a house payment and little kids,
Yeah.
you know, um, but he has provided for us in every way. And it's been just beyond, he's able to, there's a scripture that says he's able to do exceedingly abundantly above and beyond what we can ask or even think.
Sure.
And I've found that to be true. I mean, the creatively, what in the world, it's like he's given, I say us because it wasn't just for me, it's
Yeah.
for the bands and for the audiences. And he just gives and gives, and it's just amazing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
thank you for letting me tell that. That was
No,
kind of a long
it's
version.
a fascinating story. It's and on that same kind of theme, I'm curious, what made you want to write an album about Martin Luther? Was it a figure you were attracted to, or did you just want to upset us Catholics?
um, Honestly, it was not my idea.
Oh,
A,
okay.
fr- a friend of mine stopped by, and he had stopped by actually with the Question Mark album idea as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because now I'd done two Christian concept albums by this time, three by the time he came over. But it was his idea. He was like, um, I've got this thing I feel like the Lord wants me to share with you, that you should do an album about Martin Luther.
Uh-huh.
And he even said, you should start, how Empire Strikes Back like starts like right in the middle of the battle. You
Yeah.
should
Yeah. Yeah.
start right in the middle of the battle. Don't go chronological, and all this stuff. He was really turned on. And I smiled at him and listened and thought, this guy's nuts. And I'm not going to do this.
Right.
I've just done three big concept albums. I'm just not going to do another. I'm not.
Yeah.
Obviously, I prayed about it, and some weeks later, I felt like I should do it. Obviously, but that was how that came about.
Oh, okay. I'm interested. I just have a few questions from my subscribers. One chap asks, why did you record Jesus Christ the Exorcist? What was that about? Or what inspired you to write that one?
Again, this was a phone call.
Right.
This guy Michael Kaplan from New York, a Jewish guy, not a Christian. He
Mhm.
he. The funny story about him. He's a fan, right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
he called me. He's a music business guy. He's the guy who signed Oh, I don't know. He was involved with Dream Theater, I think, in some way, and he signed. Oh, I can't remember. But
Okay.
he's done a lot of stuff in the music business, and he called me up after Testimony came out and said, "Neal, I want you to know I'm a huge fan. I love this album. It's like my favorite album. But I just have a question for you. I'm Jewish. Am I going to hell?" So we talked about that for a while. It was pretty funny. But anyway, Michael Kaplan called me up, I think in 2008,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, me and my friends, we were listening to Jesus Christ Superstar last night, and we
Okay.
were saying how, man, somebody needs to do like a newer version, like a different, more current
Okay.
kind of proggy version of this.
Yeah.
And Michael Kaplan was like, I got the guy. And so
Yeah.
it was his idea originally.
Okay. Um, let's see. Don Radcliffe asks, could you ask Neal what is his favorite or most emotional Spock's Beard track he's ever written?
Oh, probably The Great Nothing.
Oh, okay.
The Great Nothing would be my testimony, really, in a sense, sort of without the God part,
Right. Right.
with music as the savior.
Okay.
One note, timeless. Like, I think the music, of course, didn't come from the Great Nothing. It came from God,
Okay.
out of the Great Nothing, so to speak, out of the great. That's kind of maybe a new agey way to talk about the expanse of space or the universe. So yeah, that from when every time I sing "From the Ashes,"
Sure.
I tear up every time I sing that, because it was really from the ashes of my life,
Sure. Sure.
because I was so sure that it was over, and then God did this whole resurrection amazing thing.
And resurrected your life.
Oh, completely. From the ashes, out of the great nothing, it plays on and on,
Sure.
with nobody knowing, always gets me too.
Okay.
Because there's this feeling sometimes you have as a composer, like maybe no one will ever know. I don't know, is it enough that God knows? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, obviously it still touches my
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing. It's a wonderful answer. Paul Ayres asks, I love his music with Spock's Beard. I'm also from SoCal. I presume he means Southern California. I
Yeah.
would like to ask, as a citizen of Whittier, California, is that a place?
Yes.
Were there any Southern California locations whose ambience inspired the lyrics or themes to Spock's Beard songs?
Oh, probably. I played everywhere. I played at a place in Whittier, like a real seedy bar I think it was called the Whittier Beach Club, which
Okay.
is kind of funny because it's way inland. It's not anywhere near the beach, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote, I can't think of anything right off the top of my head, but there's different parts of these epics, particularly where I'm describing, funky environments, seedy, the seamier side of life.
Yeah.
And I experienced that all over LA and Orange County, playing in all
Yeah.
the bars and clubs there for so many years.
Sure.
And we played some good places too. It wasn't like it was all bad, but when you're around a lot of people that are drinking heavily for a really long time, you
Yeah.
can experience some things that are not so attractive.
Wholesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael Murray says, I've been a fan of Neal since his days with Spock. But my question is, who would you most like to collaborate with that you haven't already?
Oh gosh, there's so many. You know, I'd love to collaborate. I mean, Peter Gabriel would be probably the top of my list if I could
Wow.
choose.
Is he still working? I haven't heard anything from him for a long time.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he has a new album coming out, actually.
Oh, okay. Okay, interesting. 999 says, what song do you really wish you'd written?
Oh, again, so many. What song do I really wish I'd written Bridge Over Troubled Water.
What a beautiful song. Beautiful
Yeah.
song. I mean, the
Yeah.
songwriting, I mean, I read, I was reading the biography of Brian Wilson, and he said that writing God Only Knows it came so easy to him, like melted butter. I'm curious, the songwriting, do you find it comes that easily to you, or is it something you really have to thrash away at, work hard at?
It's different. It's different each time.
No?
But I would say yes, it generally comes pretty easy to me. Most of the songs on Troika, for example, were written probably in 2 hours or less.
Okay.
Because they're, once you have the verse, you get one verse you like, and if you have the chorus, and on an album like that, you're going to want to keep it kind of simple.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, a lot of the best things come just off the tip of your tongue. They're just, they're just naturally, it's just naturally there, and it's wonderful that, especially when it's shared and other people really feel it.
Yeah.
That's the really wonderful part, when you share it, and it's a blessing to other people. It's just amazing.
Absolutely. Well, you'll be relieved. I've know that I've only got one more question for you, so you can
Okay.
have your break. I don't know what time is it where you are.
We started at 9 a.m. so it's like almost a little before, so it's like 9:30 a.m.
Okay, so you can get off and have some breakfast maybe.
Yeah.
Tom Griffin asks, will we see more flying colors?
I hope so.
Okay.
I hope so. Yeah, we've talked about it. We just haven't, our schedules have not aligned, and so it hasn't been something that time has permitted, but we all really love each other. We love working together. And I think the label is also interested.
Sure.
So, when the time is right, I'm hopeful that I'm hopeful it'll happen.
Okay. Neal, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me. I wish you the very best of luck with this album, Troika, and all your other endeavors. And I'll let you get off and get some breakfast.
All right. Well, thank you so much, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. You have a good one. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.